This is a definite addition to West Australian effectiveness, the effectiveness of West Australian industry.
The WA Defence Review magazine is a very welcome addition to the defence industry.
The WA Defence Review magazine has been long overdue. It's something that we need in Western Australia to put our point forward.
West Australia has to struggle hard to make all Australians conscious of the fact that West Australia is absolutely critical to their defence.
I think it's really important for Western Australia to highlight some of our capability that's largely unknown by our isolation.
It will be a great opportunity for us to get the message across to the greater defence community, which resides in the East.
We like to support our members, particularly these days when a lot of our oil and gas companies are looking for opportunities in defence. I thought this was a perfect segue for those companies to be here today with the WA Defence Review and AmCham.
There is a certain pride in beginning to get the share, if you like, of Australian defence production, of the skills here and the competencies and the inventiveness.
I'm a very strong advocate of a need for a robust defence industry here in Western Australia for national strategic reasons, and I think the advent of this magazine is a great step forward in terms of keeping the industry and the public informed about what's happening in the West Australian defence industry and defence and security in general.
My name is Penelope Williamson. I'm the General Manager of the American Chamber of Commerce for WA and the Northern Territory. I would like to welcome you all here to our business briefing on the future of special operations and industry innovations. I would like to acknowledge our co-event partner, our dear friend Serge, Editor-in-Chief of WA Defence Review, our keynote speaker, Major General Jeff Sengelman, Special Operations Commander, Australian Army. Guest speaker Kate Lewis, First Assistant Secretary, Defence Industry Policy Division, Department of Defence. The Honourable Paul Paplia, Minister for Tourism, Racing and Gaming, Small Business, Defence Issues, Citizenship and Multicultural Interests. Senator, the Honourable Linda Reynolds, Senator for Western Australia. The Honourable Kim Beazley, President of the Australian Institute of International Affairs. Also a very warm welcome to our gold sponsors, Edith Cowan University, AMC Management. Our silver sponsors, AVI, L3 Oceania, Department of Commerce. Our bronze sponsors, Regional Development Australia, Forjax Marine and Defence, Hoffman Engineering. It's now my very great pleasure to introduce Serge to come and speak to you in regards to his WA Defence Review.
I've been active as a defence analyst covering you could say Indian Ocean affairs and defence for the last 10 years. And in those 10 years I've developed a very strong appreciation of issues to do with defence in Western Australia. Over the last 4 years, of course, I was the president of the Australian Industry and Defence Network, which is the peak body for defence in WA. We're representing some 65 companies, many of them who are members in this room today. In that capacity, I developed a strong understanding of issues that industry faced here and a recognition of the difficulties, the peculiar difficulties of the tyranny of distance and a whole range of other political and cultural issues, if you like, that Western Australians face, particularly in dealings with the East and Canberra, and decision makers in Canberra. So in that process, it dawned on me that there wasn't effective strategic communications that was taking place in this area that would be able for WA to have a more prominent voice. And so having had the exposure I've had with various, being a defence writer and interviewing people and writing articles and so on, it dawned on me that there really needed to be a vehicle for that. And this vehicle now, of course, is WA Defence Review. Let me just give you just a quick and a brief intro. The magazine will have a WA focus, but the whole idea is basically to promote it in the East. So we don't get consumed by our own parochialism. So we can mobilise people in WA to read it, to understand who's doing what. That's important. But we also, so WA can sell its case, but the other thing that's required is that people in the East are aware of what's happening in WA as well. So there's communication going on. So we'll solicit opinion pieces from industry leaders, decision makers in government, and so on. We'll be writing features, covering exercises, covering WA companies, exhibitions and so on. Writing features, which will be a regular feature of this magazine, I might add. Writing features on defence and security in the Northwest, which can be underappreciated in the East. That's very important to WA. Talking about Indian Ocean strategic affairs, that's important to WA, just as much as, say, California would have a worldview about the Pacific and New York would have a worldview about the Atlantic. So Western Australia, in many respects, has a similar problem. The bulk of the population being on the East and so on. All of you know this story. So superimposing that on defence, it makes it important that this magazine publication, which will have an events program like these, we'll be doing regular events like this, and of course we will also have a YouTube channel as well, doing interviews. So it's going to be the whole component of strategic communications which will enable WA to articulate its voices on issues that are important to WA and also important to the national interest. It's not just about WA, it's a national interest equation as well. So that's what this publication is about.
The Australian nation needs a robust defence capability, a robust defence industry capability here in Western Australia. That is in the national interest. And we need to convey that argument to the federal government, to all of the politicians on the East Coast, also the wider population. We need to let the rest of Australia know how important it is that the defence sector in Western Australia is not just sustained at the moment, but is enduringly robust in the long term.
Special operations in the world that we live in, right, is a complicated business. Complicated in capability terms, complicated because our adversaries are highly agile, adaptive and innovative. My command in the last 15 years has been involved in thousands of combat missions. A normal year in special operations is busier than the busiest year anywhere in the Defence Force. Special Operations Command Australia has seen more combat and caused more casualties to our adversaries than the entire accumulated equivalent sum of the rest of the Defence Force since the Vietnam War. It is, without doubt, one of the best of its type in the world. At the end of this presentation, it will be my special privilege to hand over to a person I deeply respect, Miss Kate Lewis, to explain to you why we have a connection between one of the world's best forces of its type, who has more combat experience than any other force in the history of this nation, and why innovation and a sovereign industrial base in Australia are critical to forces like mine. I need a partnership with industry that is genuinely innovative, that is at the edge, that is best in the world. And knowing Western Australia just a little bit, I will tell you that I believe that all the conditions for an innovation hub reside here in this part of the world. We're trying to be more agile, more responsive, and to find ways to do it. Right? And this is part of that conversation. So work through Kate and her people, give value to the meaning of the word innovation, and let the Department of Defence help Western Australia and all of you to realise your full potential. And the ball is, to a large degree, now in your court.
Two of our big initiatives that I'm really hoping will inspire and drive industry and really support them in supporting the government's agenda to really drive as much of the $195 billion in our integrated investment program into Australian industry. What I did want to focus on were the two big funded initiatives, the Centre for Defence Industry Capability and our new innovation system. I think ways that we can really drive businesses in WA, which are perfectly poised, of course, with your wonderful infrastructure base here and incredible skills that you have. We really hope these, alongside complementary initiatives that are going on in the state, can actually really support and help build particularly our SME community.
Since I've been at AmCham, we have organised 1,000 functions, and I'm really struggling to find any speaker who is better than Major General Jeff Sengleman. You spoke with such passion and you're so proud of your people that are working for you. I thought it was really quite amazing. When you couple that with Kate Lewis, who's providing an opportunity for our members who are in the room today to actually be involved with what you're doing, I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. This, for me, would go down as one of the very best events that we have held.